native speaker of Spanish and I'm not, and you're Spanish teachers and I'm not, but I had the nerve to write, to author a book on teaching Spanish and everything, sort of like, cracking them up, that was the way you kind of.
Yeah, break the ice.
Yeah.
That happened at the conference in Barcelona. I think I was with you watching, he was from Germany.
The natives versus non-native teachers.
Yeah, I think it was like, I apologize immediately.
Yeah, I think it
was
was
Bulgarian.
Eastern Europe or something.
Yeah.
He was apologising for the war.
No.
That's what most Germans do.
All right, can you look at the handout that says oral presentations?
Final that imagery.
Read, please, yeah. There are, 2 pages.
Stop it now.
It's just what they're already doing.
Visual brainstorming. Mind map.
Kidneys.
No jokes, no apologies.
Yeah.
Students evaluate teachers or video presentation.
Yeah. So you do a version of the
Of their
presentation.
presentation.
Yeah, or of the presentation that you have created together, or it could be you presenting something and they evaluate that.
I've only ever done this one-on-one. I've never done this in a group scenario.
Doing presentation?
And I think that's a good point at the beginning.
I've only done it
Like
one-on-one.
purpose, when it's whatever, what do you want the audience to do, which I think is a good point, because a lot of students have a very short attention span, and it's like someone else is talking and they're just like,
Yeah, they're just
not really interested.
That's true.
So making sure, like, as you do, like writing down the errors and stuff.
But not only writing down the errors, we were talking about this before.
Or like
if you're giving a
points.
presentation, you see people writing, saying, "Oh God, I've done something wrong." But I was, also, write down things they've done well as a teacher. We have a large contract with Toulouse Business School in the Barcelona campus, and these are people who are 19 to 23 years old, basically. And we do a lot of work with presentations on them because the kind of thing they have to do anyway in their marketing class and their business law class, etc., etc. Have you ever worked with students to build them up through a presentation.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the experience?
What, for me or for him?
Both.
Right, yeah, okay. You all know Gerard, no? The guy from Anbang.
Alex,
Okay, right. He's an incredibly intelligent, very clever, well-educated man. But he has, how would I say, bordering on tics. He's that nervous.
Really?
Yeah, he kind of fumbles a lot, and he's like this. But his job, because of his knowledge and his ability with English, means that he has to travel. This year they've pushed that even further, and he's very, very rarely, due to the amount of cancellations, very, very rarely is he here. And basically, he now is presenting in front of hundreds of people at some places, in like Miami and just like in Germany and all over the place. He's properly, right there. And he came to me, to us, and he just said, Danny, I'm scared. I know that I know my material. This is not a problem. Anything connected with a bank, I'm on it. And as soon as I start talking about it, I improve. But the whole delivering, the beginning, the keeping people focused, I want people to listen to me, but without boring them, blah, 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 blah. And we just sat down and went, okay, well, let's go. And we did basically what this is saying, so I'm quite happy about that. And all I did was boost his confidence and praise him continuously. He said, okay, right, you said that phrase, but you've gone off track and now you're boring me. I need you to focus, stop looking at your notes, bullet point it. You can look at your notes, come back, pick your head back up. And I tried to really give him body language tips to engage his audience and to try and present, instead of just next point, bye. I was like, pause, let your audience digest what you just said. Repeat what you just said to emphasize your point. And I just basically kind of beat him into shape, and he came back from the one particular one that was scaring him with overwhelming confidence in himself. And he said, I know I wasn't great, but compared to where I was, I now feel I can do this, and I've got so many kind of so much ammunition to good phrase, and not repeating himself with always the same way of saying each phrase. And he just said, oh, it's great, I feel like an actor. And I said, that's exactly how you should feel.
What's his English level?
No, it's English level. It's very bordering on proficiency. I recommended if he does it, but I don't think he's got the time. But for me personally, as a teacher, that was like a massive success. I was really proud of him for doing that. And he's, now we just sit, chit chat and banter in class. And it's like, okay, I've got this coming up. Okay, are you good with that? Yeah, I'm fine. Cool. And he doesn't come in, oh no, I'm still a bit unsure about this. And he'll bring his presentation and his speech, and he changes it. He doesn't just go, no, that's what I always say, so that's what I'm sticking with. He really tries to mix it up. And I'm super proud of him for that. So for me, very rewarding, and because I did worry about him. He's not a good public speaker, shall we say.
It's interesting. It gave you a lot of satisfaction, didn't it? And also, it seems that for the student himself, it was like a quantum leap.
Massive. He honestly thought, I'll never be able to do this. I'll crack, I'll fall over, I'll
massive
sweat.
Motivation.
Sorry.
And since then, I've actually noticed that he speaks much more fluently as well. He uses, just in general, he uses way less. He just speaks, he pauses, and he's not nervous about pausing, whereas he always used to be. He always felt he had to be speaking all the time in case anybody noticed that he didn't speak very well. Oh my gosh.
Great. Any other experiences like that?
On a very much smaller scenario, I have a student who's a lawyer, and she does group classes, and then she does a private class. And she has a lot of clients or potential clients who come from outside Andorra. And she helps them with setting up businesses and setting up passive residences. Denominator is the English language, and she feels very insecure about selling Andorra in terms of the advantages of living here, both whether it's financial or just in general. And so it's not really presentation in the true sense of the word, but she is offering her services and showing what the advantages are of Andorra. And the first time she had to do this, she was absolutely, well, I'm sure her level is lower than Gerard's, but she was very preoccupied, very worried, and we did a series of rehearsals and a series of possible questions and answers that she gave. And after having done about probably 10 of these classes like this, and then having done 5 or 6 of these meetings, she is absolutely in her comfort zone for these types of presentations or meetings that she has to hold, and that for her is a huge step, because she never thought that she would be able to do it and do it with such ease or facility, and now she's really good at doing that. And I think it's actually even brought up her level of general English, apart from her level of legal English, her level of general English too.
Just confidence in speaking in general.
And I think that she speaks much more fluently and relaxed now also.
Sounds like we should be doing this with everybody, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
Like I said, I've never done this with, and there's potentially some classes that I have that I could, just one person I have in mind.
I do think that this is actually,
I think because you do it quite a lot, don't you? I remember watching one of your classes at the very beginning with the book, and I think it's a good idea. Like, at the beginning, they're like, no, I don't want to stand at the front. Like, can I just stay in my chair? And it's like, okay, but I think it really does help their confidence, and it's something they can prepare before, so it's not like on the spot, which is good for everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's good for students to practice outside of their comfort zone, because it's like, in the academy, it's a very controlled scenario, but it's like if anyone stops them on the street, they're going to be much more nervous. So if they can practice being nervous in a controlled scenario, then they know they're nervous in an uncontrolled scenario, they're going to be less nervous because they already have been practicing being nervous.
But I also think that this is actually kind of, in a strange way, relevant to a lot of the exam prep that we do also for the speaking parts of the exams, in terms of that, in a very, abstract concept way. The more you get the kids to speak, especially the ones that are at ped level or early first level, they have this weird embarrassment about speaking English, and even though their writing and their reading and use of English is really good, they're speaking and they're just embarrassed about it. And the more you drill them, the more you go over this with them and you practice the exam, you do see progress, you do see a change, and they do start going.
It's almost
Better,
like they're
more
wanting to demonstrate their level, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it all comes down to, or one of the huge factors is confidence in oneself and confidence in one's ability to speak and communicate and realize that you can do it.
Those 2 testimonies you've given are like fantastic examples of like before and after. Like the benefit that the learner got from those.
Massive.
And I was going to say that this would be really good for Doggy, the one that you have on Mondays, because she's the only student that I have heard say, I've been doing English for such a long time and my level is the same, and it's true, and I don't know why, because she does a lot of work on it. She's probably progressing a little bit, but her goal is like to do the first, and I don't see it happening. And she has been doing classes for minimum 6 years, always at an intermediate level. So.
And I think it's quite a good idea to have like a sustained amount of speaking, because often if it's like, okay, give me your opinion, they're speaking for like 20 seconds. And then it's like, okay, next person. And I used to do a thing quite a lot, like if we have a few minutes at the end, it's like with a picture and I put the timer, like, okay, see how long you can speak for. And then the next person, okay, try and beat their time. And they have to think on the spot as well, not like, okay, here's everything I want you to say, just say it back to me.
Yeah.
So.
2 things I've done in the last 6 months, which are sort of presentations. A group in the company Revlon, I mentioned Revlon yesterday, 7 people in the class, and they all work for different departments: R&D, education, regulatory, finance, packaging, and the control department. and it's a huge company, and a lot of companies, the internal communications don't seem to be all that hot. So I got them to do a 5-minute presentation of what's going on, like this year, this quarter, in their department, because they have no idea. And so you know all the information, so you do set a 5-minute presentation, and everybody listening had to ask a question. So in other words, I'm trying to engage. They have a task too. They have to ask him or her a question about what they've heard, and also for the person who's giving the presentation. Some of those people have said, "Oh yeah, the presentation's fine, but God, no, please." I think somebody mentioned this yesterday. Please don't ask me any questions. That came up, didn't it?
I mentioned it.
Yeah. So right. So and they've got to respond to these questions.
That's the hardest part sometimes.
And someone said, but then I teach them to say, does that answer your question?
The ones I've dealt with never get that far because they didn't understand the question and they try for, come on, okay, what, sorry, and then they collapse.
Well, okay, my second example is a group, let's say a group of primary school teachers who are A2 level, 9 of them. And they are in a situation where, in a couple of years' time, they may have to be teaching social sciences or maths or something in English. It could well happen. And so the best, a couple of them are, I'd say, are B1.1, but the center of gravity in this group is kind of good A2 level. And I said, okay, I want you to. Every day, one of you is going to get up and teach your subject in English, whatever your subject is, to the rest of us, and you tell us how old we are. We could because we could be. No, there's a difference. We could be 4-year-olds and we could be 11-year-olds, and that makes a difference to questions we ask, or and the way you're delivering it. And they were terrified, understandably. And I said, look, it's 2 minutes. Okay, I was lying because it's never 2 minutes. By the time they get up there and start doing their stuff, it's 5 minutes. For them, that was a real leap too. And again, they know the material, and also they have the confidence. The fact that they were, they were friends, co-workers with the audience, but they had never had to stand up in front of people and speak in English before.
Do you find that there's a general rule to how many students sort of would stand up in front of friends and colleagues? I normally find that that's worse than standing up. It's like, for example, I can play guitar in front of, I don't care how many people, it won't bother me at all. Absolutely wouldn't bother me at all. You asked me to sit here and play guitar in front of these guys, it'd be like weird. I'd have to do it, but it'd be weird.
Because you feel judged.
Yeah, because people know
exactly.
you.
So I was thinking, on the same sort of idea and the same concept, do you have the problem with students sort of going, I'll present it in front of this person because I'll never see him again, so I don't really care. Or are they probably like, oh my God, no, I've got to deliver that in front of my colleagues? I was interested to know if you find any kind of.
Yeah, I can see both possibilities. I mean, with this group of teachers, it was fine because, some of them actually gave English lessons, and they have these things saying, what's this? It's a duck, or is it a duck? Is it a duck? Is it, which is the duck? Is this a duck or the owl? But so everybody knew how they had to react. It said, and they were saying, it's a bear, it's a duck, it's a fox, whatever.
That's really good for my students. Who teaches
Stephen.
A teacher.
Yeah, she says eventually she'll have to teach English, some subject in English.
Yeah. Last year I had a group of secondary school teachers. It was a religious school, And they are now already teaching English as the vehicle language for some of their subjects. And that's a real challenge if your level of English is intermediate.
Absolutely. Especially when some of your students have probably got a higher level than you.
Or some of your students exactly speak English at home.
If you're in an international school, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
There'll be kids there
it is an international school. Right. This is a presentation I worked on a couple of years ago. This is a student who was very lacking in confidence, Ferran, and he was sort of A2 level. I mean, he could write reasonably well, but he would just panic when he had to speak. And we spent hours working on this, and this was the final version of his presentation. Let me read that. I haven't got that on photocopy, sorry.
Was it something he learned by heart?
Yes, very much. The information he knows anyway, of course. Yeah.
Just put it all together.
Yeah. So that's it. It's not very long, but for him, you can see it's not very sophisticated. But this is definitely above A2 level. Definitely above A2. But I try to bring that. How far down can I take it to make it accessible for him? Certainly, in terms of reading this, he had no problems. And he wasn't actually very far from being able to write this, but his oral level was the lowest thing. So it took us hours to get to this stage, of course. And as you can, but he knew things like storage capacity because he uses these words every day. Workshop service, transport damages, all these collocations, are things he uses every. He didn't need input on those. What he needed were, help with things, with the verb forms. And he, and sort of trying to work well done and our respect for the environment. That was like a direct translation, just like he didn't know the English for that. Okay, so that's our kind of our goal, the FMGL, to do that. So we are having arrived at that in next classes, because the work is on the grammar here, and I gave him this. This is what this is the find the gap activity. And all he had to do was to use all of those definite and indefinite and one definite article in the right place. And the typical Spanish thing, is that only these. I need more. I need more there. No. That's all you can use. And so, what we're looking at here is not so much the use of the definite article, it's the non-use of the definite article, which is the key thing for Spanish speakers in English. Yeah. Then the next section was you can see verb forms.
It's a good way of memorizing it for sure.
Yeah.
So he's getting all the language work, but the language work has been fine-tuned for him, this presentation. And numbers. This was the easiest one game, of course. And then, you know, comparatives and superlatives. A very challenging area for him.
Common mistake.
Yeah.
Because they just translate.
Yeah. So you've got, you know, make and do, and comparatives. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, so once we had reached this stage, you know, the presentation, that gave me that gave me a text that I could work on with him for hours and hours happily. And then he got up and he did it from memory. He screwed up with one or two things, but I thought, you know, it was again like the thing we were talking about. It was for Daran, it was a quantum leap.
That's something that I don't do is for sure is going to enough. Maybe just like sort of to do the whole thing, but then to just absolutely break it down and analyze it and just go over and over and over. What I taught Gerard to do was to be able to know where he was in his speech, because he asked me, he said, how do you remember all your lyrics? And I said, I don't, I make them up. And if any of you understood the real lyrics, you'd know that. But I said, what it is, I said, when I'm learning a song, all I do is I write down the first couple of words which start the bit that I can't remember. Basically, the first two words of that line in that verse. And as soon as I start it, I know exactly what the next word is. I know exactly where I am. And I said, it's just from memory. And I said, if you do that, if you just have your bullet points, but if you just have a page like that, you got no idea what the hell you're looking at when you're giving a presentation. You got to just have like two things on this page in your presentation, and then you just, okay, and you see the first word, you know where you are. And that's how he does it, and sort of, you know, does it from memory, just checks where he is occasionally. But giving them that sort of first little line or the first few words of that sentence just keeps them on track rather than going,
definitely more.
Yeah, just quickly glance, you know. He said, oh yeah, but if I look at my papers, people will think, you know, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So it's not true. Why? You need to focus. You're giving me important information. I prefer that you get it right than guess. In that way, so I will give you the time, provided if you just basically just go, so I'll let you think about that for a moment while they're all thinking about it, just and come back with the next thing. It's not a problem to do that. And if you need to just quickly look and pause, the people will wait for you. As long as you're not, 2 minutes.
I think the moment
like
we
this.
have like the whole script.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
just like reading from the script. And
Exactly, which is terrible. But I said, if you just basically say something, and to focus yourself, you need to look down, identify it. Okay, start, put your slide, whatever you got to do. Just control what you're doing rather than panicking, because everybody just goes next slide, bam, 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 bam. And they get lost in.
That is part of
Just
human
leave it.
nature. Because, linguistics said that if you constantly speak like this, like a robot, you do switch up. And it's human nature. When you and you are, you're more kind of attentive to what people are saying because you're thinking, oh, I could help you out there. Or when you're saying, I wonder what you're going to say, or I know something about that.
It's part of the language.
It is.
It's actually part of the language.
It's a natural, when people are speaking, you kind of get people's attention.
Yeah.
Does it exist in Spanish?
I had an interesting experience about this and thing, because I've normally said what you say. However, a couple of years ago, I attended some meetings of Toastmasters, Do you know Toastmasters?
People who make toast really well.
Anybody, you
Yeah,
So you-
Toastmasters is an association of people who do after dinner speaking, basically, or they present.
well, not or pre-dinner or post-dinner or at a wedding. And so, yeah, it's an organization which started in the USA, and basically it trains people to do public speaking. You grew up in the States, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
And isn't this something that happens in high schools?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's part of the curriculum. That
Part
a lot of the
public
teachers.
speaking is part.
Yeah.
So
I went
in
to,
the UK,
but I went to boarding
Really?
school.
yeah, for my
Yeah.
GCSE, I had to do like give a presentation, public speaking.
I did.
Yeah.
So this was Toastmasters Barcelona. One of my friends was trying to get me to join. And what was very interesting there is that there are lots of controls, and people are kind of disciplining each other, and there's a kind of traffic light system where amber means you've got 4 minutes left, and red means I don't know exactly what it was, but the timing was incredibly strict.
Yeah.
And there was another person whose job was only to write down and I mean. And you were deducted
Yeah,
points,
yeah.
Every time you
for those things. And so their
Bringing back
policy
terrible high
was
school
very, very
memories.
much that if you use those fillers,
Yeah.
it seems as if you are not on top of your material, or your nerves are getting on top of you. I don't know what the best way of approaching that is.
For me, it's pausing other fillers.
No, but I think.
So well, let me think, let me see.
I think one of the most impressive people to listen to is Obama, and I don't hear him saying and ah and
No.
stuff. But you can watch him for hours and he just flows through. But he does stop, leave silences, and then come in again. He doesn't give an and an ah and let me think what I'm going to say.
Yeah, but I
he
mean,
does control it.
that's trained, and the pauses are strategically placed in the
And
speech.
he has two, unlike most American people, he works with 2 teleprinters.
Oh, yes?
So that's why he's always saying, and there's one thing I wanted to say to you today.
He has 2 of them.
And that's because the people of Illinois have made it very clear
Yeah,
that they will not accept,
It's
that's why he's
set up.
always doing that. Half phrase, half phrase, half phrase, half phrase.
yeah.
But
Very good.
it's training.
But he's a very good public speaker.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he's been trained, and that's part of but it's also linguists, it's true, the trend, the pendulum is swinging, that they are saying these ums and these, well, let me think, and these fillers, it's what they're considering it to be part of the natural language. And I used to get deducted, I know that in high school and like even in university, when it was like oral presentation, I was like, oh my God. I mean, because they would deduct points from pauses, or if I had to look at my notes, or and like, oof, that like, man, I was like, dude. But now they're considering it, linguists are saying, well, everybody uses it, if it's so common and it's part of our daily speech, how is it incorrect? And that's that whole body of linguists
And
saying.
sometimes it's more like natural to just be like, instead of, hold on, let me think for a minute.
Yes.
But there are some words I think you
Really-
can't put. You know all the time. I mean,
You know what I mean?
If you listen to somebody saying it, every third word, you know.
Or
Like,
like
I think that's a
high
problem.
schoolers like teenagers,
Yeah.
like, like.
You know, when I went to like holiday camp, like Vermont,
Coming back to what you said a moment ago about natural, I mean, I think more than natural, it depends on what's appropriate for that context.
Yeah,
It's like the
yes.
clothes you wear.
Exactly.
Ski clothes are appropriate for certain things, bikinis are appropriate for other events,
Yeah.
It's what's appropriate for that event.
Bikini ski.
yep, it's appropriate.
Okay, what we've been talking about, we've sort of been fusing into the next part, which is pushing the learner, demand high teaching. Can you turn back a couple of pages, please, to this one?
Which one?
The one that says, what do we mean by demand high teaching? And read that page, please.
I like big letters.
Both pages?
No, just the first.
Just. Can we turn off the air for a little bit?
I'll turn it off.
No.
Yeah, you know why? Because the vent's there.
Yeah, I know, it's going, it's great, but no.
To go to the toilet.
Just up the window. What is it, sushi or?
No, it's a mosaic. No? Broken up.
Okay.
That's tasty.
Really?
Your idea of sushi, no.
That looks like my car interior after my children have been eating snacks.
It's a mosaic that I saw in a museum which is in terrible condition in a place called Catania in Sicily. And it was just, the mosaic broken down, the deconstructed mosaic. In 2,000 years, they haven't had time to put this back together. Things take a while in Sicily.
They put it in a tray.
That was probably the 17th century when they put it in the tray. Yes.
They restored the tray.
Step by step.
All right. So, oops. All right. So, what's your typical day? The teacher played this line from an authentic interview, and of course, not from an MP3 player once. Asking class of 8 adult B2 learners which word was stressed. What happened? Teacher gets up in front of the class and says, what's your, play the line, what, and then the audience said, what's your typical day? So, which word was stressed? Your. And the student, what happened next?
They'll give one-word answers.
So your typical day.
And they'll
But
probably
just
have
repeat the
a.
word and
Which word? Because they're
No, they're just asked to play again.
I don't understand stress.
okay, this is a class I observed. What happened?
This one said.
Answer, nothing happened. There was a silence. The teacher played it again, and then students start throwing the one-word answer. Typical, excellent.
Just
Yeah.
guessing.
Just guessing. Teacher moved on. She said of an activity. Oh, sorry. When the person got it right, she said excellent. Okay. Arguably, it's not excellent, but that's not the point. And then she moved on. She set up an activity where they asked each other, their colleagues, 5 questions they'd just written about the daily work routine. Students did activity in passion. Can you visualize this? You can imagine this happening. Been there, done that. So, oops. What was good about what this teacher did?
Well,
She adapted.
activity.
She adapted to the situation, or?
It's more communicative because they're asking each other. It's not like an individual one-to-one thing. Where
Should not
everyone's
have-
listening.
Should let them take control. The students in the
Put them in
activity.
pairs rather than.
She didn't speak too much. She let them do the speaking.
Yeah, I think these were things that, some of the good things that, from that little interaction. Some attention. So she praised the learner who got the correct answer. The typical is the word which carries the stress. The instruction was clear. She monitored. Okay, so far so good.
But.
Yeah, exactly. But oops. What could have made it demand high teaching? What could have made it better? Because in a sense, what she did was pretty typical of what happens in class. But I think, well, more could be done here. We can stretch the learners a bit more. For example, all of these things.
Maybe she accepted the first answer too quickly, and maybe you should have extracted more from everybody, not just one.
We don't
She
have
blased.
this. Maybe photos of it.
She blased over it now, they look to
Yeah.
the next thing without sort of going a bit further in depth.
And
Yeah.
it's like they obviously haven't really understood. They're just guessing. It's like, oh, cool, you got it right. Let's move on to the next thing.
She
Like,
wants us, she's asking us a question, we'll throw an answer. She says, good,
Yeah.
move on. Where's the engagement? As a learner, how does this actually take me from where I am now to a better place? So these are all things that I thought she could have done.
Could you just talk a bit about mumble drilling? What is mumble drilling?
When you like
What
do
do you
it
think
to yourself, it's like you say you need to say this question, and you get all the students to like say it, but very quietly to themselves. So it's like this kind of thing.
Even though I'm mumbling, there's still some intonation there. I'm not saying I am giving some mumble stress to keep syllable, not word. Yeah, it's interesting. So what's your typical day? Blah blah blah. 5 questions. Are you? Right.
The thing I find with many classes, I'm sure you guys too, is that the strongest one always answers first, and the rest accept.
Yeah.
I always try to pick on the weakest one first, or a different order, and I leave my strong student that now you've heard different options, so you've got to come up with something else. And I try that because otherwise it's just follow the leader.
Yeah.
And sort of, and if you accept that as a teacher, the others are kind of happy because they haven't had to say anything, or they haven't had to.
But you can use him to give an example for everybody else to follow. It's easier for that.
Yeah, but then normally it's like he gives, for example, Robert gives a word, and then Emmy's going, yeah, and then can't think of anything else because she's timid or whatever, and it's kind of.
My treasure is like, if we're doing questions like that, I always put for a different question, a different person on the spot.
Absolutely.
So for example, you're here, well then you're answering the first question, you're answering the second question, you're answering the third question. And everybody will give an answer to each question, but we're starting in that order. So each person is forced to be at least the first person to have to answer something.
Right.
And I think generally that works quite well.
Who looks interested? Yeah. When I'm sitting in my class, I'll be like that, and I'll see who's paying attention, and then the person who's going, you're fucking. So, Chloe. Because you can see it in their face.
But with stress as well, a lot of students kind of switch off. They go, oh, no, stress. I don't understand stress. What's he talking about? And in a lot of the textbooks, you could be, I don't know, on one subject or whatever, and then there's just like a little section. Okay, now we're going to look at stress. Listening. 32.3. Okay, where's the stress in this sentence?
And they're
like, hang on. We've just gone from talking using the past continuous, and now we're doing stress. What's that got to do with anything? Okay. And
what do you say?
I generally skip them. If I'm going to teach stress, I'll do like a whole class on stress. I won't just not a whole class, but just
I think
drill them. But I'd sort of.
The phonological system of the language is as important as the lexical system, is as important as the syntactic system.
It is.
And I think as a profession, we still underemphasize pronunciation in all its aspects. We're talking about this a bit tomorrow, but I would always be working on stress, always. And okay, just taking that question, what's your typical day? If we shift the stress there, okay, what's your typical day? The standard question would be, what's your typical day? Yeah?
It is difficult to teach stress.
I think I agree because it really depends on the context of the situation. Like if I have 4 students, I'm like, okay, so what's your typical day?
Exactly.
You're putting the stress on the
No, exactly, but what you've done is you've shifted the stress, and what's the effect of that? It's a different question.
Yeah.
It's the entirely,
normal stress.
it's the correct, if you like, or most expected stress pattern for a response question.
Mm-hmm.
So, you asked me where I'm from.
Where are you from?
I'm from Christchurch. Where are you from? Okay, the sentence was the same, but the stress was different, and it would have been strange if I had replied to her with the same stress pattern, wouldn't it?
I guess.
Yeah. If you just, where are you from? Okay, it's also correct that the meaning is.
I don't understand.
What? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So and you also give up. Where are you from? You say, what a peasant. Or by shifting the stress to different words, a very simple, 4-syllable sentence there, you're actually communicating a different message there. And native speakers, receive intonation at an emotional level. We don't, oh yeah, she shifted to that, upper rate, rise, fall, rise. No, we don't think, we react emotionally. What, and so where are you from? Someone's going to be offended unless they're an ELT specialist. So all time spent on pronunciation in all aspects is entirely, incredibly important. Because English is a stress time language, you have, and Spanish is a syllable time language. You always have to make them work on it to make it sound as though they're slightly interested in the other person. I was on a plane that landed in Barcelona Airport a few months ago, and the cabin announcement about please remain into your seats and then the cabin a complete halt at our terminal building, the kind of thing we've heard a million times. And I was listening to that, and I thought, I can't understand what she is saying. I know what she's saying because I've heard it a million times before, but I do not understand it. And everybody on the plane who's an English speaker thinks, they use contextual knowledge, to say, oh, she must be saying this, but it was incomprehensible. Wow. And quite possibly the syllables were correct, but the lack of stress made it incomprehensible. Okay, that didn't matter because everybody knows that they have to sit down, keep in their seats. But in the other situation, the message is not being communicated because of the poor prom, which I think it's important to practice this part here at least. And then, okay, you've written 5 questions. Okay, just mark the syllables that you're going to stress, because that's how you will convey your message.
What kind of, do you do this from the very beginning?
Which level she means?
Yeah.
You mean which level?
Every level. I mean, I'll do with proficiency learners.
No, I mean head and below, no.
Every level,
It's
single,
fundamental, part of the whole picture.
Every single class I teach, there's pronunciation, part of it is pronunciation, whatever the level, whatever the format.
But I have a group of students who are also teachers, they're not English teachers, and they're, I don't know, like B1 level, more or less.
Okay, B1.
Yeah, and for example, we were doing a lesson about making suggestions, and I was trying to, it's like, do you fancy? And I was like, if you listen to me, I blend my words together. You will never hear an English person saying, do you fancy this? And they were like, oh no, but we don't want to learn like this. Like, this is too complicated for us. I just want to be able to say the phrase. I don't need to sound like an English person.
Fair enough, you don't need to sound like an English person. But somebody says to you, do you fancy a drink? And you don't understand, communication is broken down. Absolutely.
Yeah, but they can understand, they're just not interested in, and I was like,
Spanish, a drink.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think is
Yeah.
like all together, for example,
Yeah.
and they're like, yes, but I can just say, what do you think, and it's fine.
Isn't it interesting how students whose pronunciation is crap are also crap when it comes to listening? Because they don't pick out messages when you play the CD or play the audio. They miss the information because of these things.
I think in a normal class, an hour and a half class, I would love to put all this in, but I think you'd have too much content with the pronunciation and the stressing and the grammar elements. I don't know if you have enough time in a normal class to put all these bits in, which I would love to do.
I mean, when I'm teaching, it's always present, and it may be going into it. Just every couple of minutes, maybe when some work on pronunciation here, there. I'm not going to spend a quarter of an hour working on it. Probably.
So just a couple of
Although,
minutes.
having said that, I've got 3 weeks ago, I was given a new class. A guy who, an IT engineer who lives in Vienna from Monday to Thursday, and he comes home for the weekend, and he has a 1-hour class, and he says, I want pronunciation. That's it. I've never actually come across that quite way. That's all I want to work on. Okay, fine, we'll do that. That's your need. We will. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. But so basically, I would say do all of these things and then do that task where you're interviewing your partners about it today. This thing, I'm upping the task a little bit. So if I say you're going to have to feed back to the class, means you are paying attention in a much different way.
Is there any value in recording the people speaking as they're doing it? Because everybody has an iPhone these days. So when they do speaking, I suggest sometimes that they record themselves.
Yep.
And then we can play it back and we can say, look how you've said that word. What about saying it in this way? Is that of any value to anybody, or is it just me doing that?
I did it for like one of my students for first certificate. We recorded doing the speaking quite often, but that was because of like repetition, saying the same phrases again and again. I was like, okay, count how many times you use this, and he's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of bad. So,
I think
pronunciation.
it depends on your student, because I think some people would be even more self-conscious of how they speak if they think that they sound stupid.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh God, that's worse,
some
I'm
of their
never
good
speaking again.
Depends on your student. I would say there is a value that you know your students best, and you as a teacher you develop that awareness, and you are the only person who can really say it would work with these people, it wouldn't work with these people. The recording.
Generally, people don't like to hear themselves.
Yeah, but it's one of those things like we mentioned before, like the comfort zone. You don't feel comfortable when you're being recorded. You're not going to be comfortable in the exam. Better to practice when you don't feel comfortable, because then you're gonna do better in the exam.
No, the reason I mention that is some Spanish people don't actually notice. You explain it to them and you say something, they say, I can't hear the difference. I can't hear what you say.
No.
If you record it, you can actually play it back a few times and think, okay, I see what you mean now.
Yeah.
And you can do that. Sometimes do that for homework. Like if there's some, especially the further south you go, the stronger the Spanish, the more difficult it is. For example, to say I cooked dinner yesterday.
Yes.
I think because they don't have that phonetic in Spanish, it doesn't happen. Whereas in Catalan, they have a similar phonetic.
Then in Catalan, you have G and G.
Yeah, but you have G and J in Catalan. You don't have G and J in Spanish,
Right.
and there's a big difference between Catalan speakers and the south. So I find that if I give set phrases, like I cook dinner, and they go home and they record themselves on the phone, and you listen to it, say, okay, I cook it.
Nothing wrong with that. That's perfect.
Okay, and what have you done then? Well, you've added another syllable. It's I cooked.
Yeah. In fact, they could record themselves, and it doesn't mean they have to then play that back in front of the class or the teacher. They could actually do it in the privacy of their own bedroom.
As long as
It's
they
only made, and
understand
everybody
it.
has one.
Right, well, okay, I don't want to talk too much more about prawn at the moment. So can you turn over, please, and read the next page? Where the list of things that, and I imagine quite a lot of these things are things that you already do.
Would you move by the last point? Simultaneous writing, simultaneous or free?
Okay, that comes out just one. You've marked some things in yellow.
Yeah.
Why?
Things that I would like to apply.
For example.
Number 6 is simple, and I suppose I do this, but not maybe in such a way. Fine, now add a reason. Fine, now add a but. I think that's good because everyone has a tendency to make short answers, so if you say and, but.
Yeah, stretching them, pushing them, getting more.
Asking to read critically. You know, you're given the text, and generally you just, you can just read the text and underline anything you don't understand.
Yeah. So I use lots of, I source lots of material from news sites, current affairs things, and one thing is to ask them comprehension questions. Another thing is to say, but my gist reading task would be, is this let me give a text about the tourism, the huge problems with tourism now in Barcelona, saying, this is written for an English-speaking audience. It's a text from yesterday's Guardian. Do you think it gives a good summary of the situation that we're experiencing now to an international audience? Yes or no, or 50-50? And that's your just reading task. So I'm not asking you, no, do you understand? I'm asking you to respond at a slightly more, visceral level. I think it's fair because, or I don't, I think it was missed out. It didn't say anything about this. Oh, that's interesting. Wow, we've suddenly got an interesting debate going on in the class. Yeah, it's a valid point.
Do you use reported speech at all? If somebody said something, you say, what did he say? And then he has to say the reported speech. What did she say? She said that he said. Do you play with that at all, or is that not part of this?
If my language aim is reported speech, yes.
But just generally, changing a sentence into another way of saying it?
Not unless it's relevant. I think my feel that reported speech is overhyped, not conditional. Anyway. Tess, you wanted to say something about number 12, I think?
No, I like it. 12 and 19. I think that these are good. Listen carefully to the explanation because we're going to tell the others. Close your eyes what's written on the whiteboard. Like, these are things, 19 I've never done. 12 I do, but I don't usually tell my students that I'm going to do it. But it's probably better to tell them in advance so that they're paying more attention. Yeah.
So like it's a paradigm shift. I'm explaining something to you, Tess, so that you understand it. But if I say, okay, Tess, I'm explaining this to you because you're going to have to teach this to other people. Suddenly, your engagement in the listening is, hang on, let me get that right. Yeah, the way you're listening has changed completely. Does anybody like to make any comments about any of those apart from number 25? Amy, yes.
Well, I think that the number 22, please experiment when writing homework, underline it so that I know. I'm always very in favor of, what I call it, adventure, or being adventurous with your vocabulary or your expressions. I don't think they tend to underline it. I tend to underline it in the correction after, and give them kudos points for using it, or positive reinforcement in that. But I think it's actually something that's really important because eventually what you write will at some point translate into how you speak. And the more reinforced they feel with something, the more confident they will feel using it later.
Yeah. Okay, the final point, number 25 there.
So we're all there, right?
That's an interesting thing about writing and speaking. So I'd like to come back to that later if I can remember. When I do seminars about teaching one-to-one, sometimes teachers say, oh, you can't do any writing in one-to-one classes. Yeah. I think, well, why not? We say, well, it would be boring, and then what would I do? And I said, well, again, every single one-to-one class I do, there is writing in the class. So how do I do that? Dead simple. I give the student a writing task. It may be, it's probably not going to be a 250-word composition. It may be a 50-word email or your response to a text. While she's doing that, I will be writing exactly the same. I will be answering the same question. Now, I may be grading what I write. If the student is A2 level, I'm not going to write it in my style. I'll bring it down a little bit to her level, or just slightly above. So she can kind of engage it, and she's not going to be frustrated. So I'm answering exactly the same question. Sure, we switch papers. And I'm doing my normal teacher stuff with the feedback on what she's writing. I'm thinking, oh, you used that really well, that's nice. Oh, but that's effective. Yeah. Okay, let's say this a different way. That gives wrong. So I'm giving all my positive and critical feedback. And she's looking at mine and she's saying, what does this mean? Or, yeah. Because the basic message is very, very similar. She'll understand most of what I've done. We can actually photocopy or whatever, or I can write my version on the screen. I also did it on Monday night with the class. And she gets to take away my good version, and we can come back to that in the next class and work on some of the language. So we're actually taking her writing and lifting it up a level. We'll be talking about this tomorrow in more to one. Now, something that came up yesterday was this thing about not letting the students write things down, and I promised to show you something about that. That's the next page where it says contextualizing new lexis. Could you read that page, please? Okay, so this little text emerged from the student of the students, and they're doing something different. And I'm writing a gap fill, inventing a gap fill from what they've said on the board and putting the new lexis there. Then they come up here, they fill it in. I'm not involved. When they're happy, then I'll check it with them. And all the way through, they're saying, can we write it down? To them? No, not yet. And then at the end, I give it to them, but I'm where Smith is, and I dictate it to them. So I'm making them work, even at that stage. They're not simply copying that into listen to me and writing it down. But by the time they write it down in that dictation, up to the challenge there, they've already heard these words that run out of making concessions. They've already heard these things now 4 or 5 times. So they're more likely to get it right. Yeah, and they can ask me to repeat again. to repeat, and then eventually they turn around and check it themselves. So instead of having a couple of notes, in their notebooks scribbled down, perhaps with a translation, perhaps not, what they've actually walked out of the class with is they've walked out of the class with a very, very nice text which contextualizes all the input that they've done. And that's a much nicer thing, much nicer outcome, I think, than just those odd notes. And it's a text that has emerged from there, and they're getting lots of good language here. Everything that was underlined was the input that they got in that lesson.
I like that idea. Like the dictation idea, something that I don't do. I mean, sometimes with one-on-one or whatever, but never in a group with the idea of them not writing anything down previously. Yeah, never done that.
Because when you've done this once, they then trust you when you say, "Don't worry, I guarantee that you will leave this lesson with it written down." But you'll leave it written down in a much more useful way.
You wrote it, not me.
Yeah, exactly. This is not something that came from Headway Pre-Intermediate. It's something that came from you. Comments, thoughts, objections?
Negative. That's a cool. I think you're just asking your students to focus a little more. It's like we all know, like they write it down as soon as you write it on the board, as soon as you say it, they ask you to write it, you write it, then they just like, they're not even listening, they're just writing because they think that they should be. And then they're not actually focusing and paying attention with the level that they need to be to absorb it. And like you say, instead of it being in just one sentence or a random phrase with a translation, it's in full context.
Yeah.
And this is quite a good idea. Sorry for the opposite way. Like for teens who never write anything, then it also works. Like okay, now you need to write whatever I'm going to say, and then you check it. Then at least they have written it.
Yeah. So what we're doing, in Demand High Teaching is we're pushing the learners. We're not letting them off the hook so easily. Trying to engage them more, and take the thing that Tess said before about comfort zone. Taking them outside their comfort zone, because that's the only place where learning can happen. So much of what goes on in classrooms is within their comfort zone. We can say, all right, we're practicing, we're consolidating, fine, but you're not, your language isn't actually advancing in any way. So the next phase of this is pronunciation work. Thank you. So you are my teacher.
Thanks.
Bobby usually sits down.
Okay, and he's out. We created this text. Now we're going to do some reading aloud. And like typical transport drivers have been on strike for several. Oh no, because I heard the teacher saying I got on strike. Strike, not like Lucky Strike. For several days, our most large supermarkets have run out of fresh produce like fruit and vegetables. A lot of people have sympathy for the strikers, no? Is he just going to correct me?
No.
He's just
doing well.
Okay, right. Others say the unions are trying to pressurize the government into making concessions that all taxpayers will end up paying for. In addition, car manufacturers have now stopped production because of problems with supply and are taking advantage of this situation to lay off temporary staff, something the government would not normally accept.
Congratulations, you passed well.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Okay, so what's he going to do now?
go that.
Well, he needs to walk you through it.
Okay, so what I've been doing, I've been listening, obviously, to your pronunciation.
Good, Mark.
Which is not bad.
It's very good. But we have certain things to concentrate on, okay? I think, especially when you said, you struggled with this word, okay? This is pronounced as an I.
Sympathy.
Sympathy.
E.
I.
I.
Yeah, sympathy. Okay. There was another one, a very common mistake, was, okay, stopping.
Stop it, no?
Okay, do I have to explain the whole voice thing? Or?
Okay. Any comments so far? Any feedback for this teacher?
Okay, normally I think I would do what Bobby did, which was let it flow and let it roll. But in this specific case, with that pronunciation, I'd have probably stopped you after the first sentence and drilled the first sentence and done sentence by sentence.
Yeah.
Or first paragraph even.
Yeah.
I would go that way.
Well, it is one paragraph, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I really like to let students go and let them go as much or as long as they can. But if the level or the pronunciation is that level,
The problem is when you get to the end, you can't remember all the things you would have liked to have corrected in the beginning.
Yeah.
Underline them.
I always underline. Yeah.
Underline them as you go along.
What was the biggest problem with my pronunciation?
Well, it wasn't really a Spanish pronunciation, quite honestly.
Sorry?
It wasn't really sounding like a Spanish
Well,
pronunciation.
it wasn't Spanish enough.
No, it was
Okay.
like strange Greek, Eastern European,
Russian, Eastern
Yeah.
European, going on there.
Okay. The main
Lots of vowels, like
Yeah.
millions.
the main thing was syllable timing with stress timing.
Yeah.
And like okay, the biggest problem. Yeah. Yes, you were right. I screwed up here, and yes, you were right. I screwed up here. But the biggest thing is I didn't know where to stress, or if I did, I didn't know how to do that. So what I didn't say is, transport drivers have been on strike for several days, and most large supermarkets have run out of fresh produce. So I'm not stressing the key syllables. I'm not stressing the information. The way I was doing it, odd and strike was and all was important. Every word had the same value, and that's why it sounded like a sat nav.
Yes, like a lack of intonation and.
So what I would say is yes, work on stop it. Yeah, but the thing that's going to make the biggest difference, if I'm getting the stresses right. In addition, car manufacturers have now stopped it. The option because of problems with supply. Okay, that's a quantum leap better. I'm still screwing up on that, but it's sounding much better.
One thing I do suggest is just a quick tip for pronunciation. I say that when you come to a vowel, okay, I say the vowel will connect to the word before, and that so then you're not looking at words individually.
Yeah.
Being on strike.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been on strike.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a liaison there.
Absolutely.
And I get the students to find all the kind of simple liaisons in the text, and that helps them.
Absolutely.
And also, if like this one, or as they will have done before, but I always get my students to read it in their head first, and then read it out loud, because even as a native speaker, you don't, when you have your book, read everything out loud to begin with, ever.
No, you don't focus on the context.
And otherwise, if you do it the other way around, you're like, okay, so what does it mean? And then we're like, oh, let me read it again because I didn't
Always
understand
read
it.
it
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Because for them, working on pronunciation is one thing,
Yeah.
and understanding is like another skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I actually do that the other way around.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, for some reason, my classes seem to do that, like, first we read it out loud, and then I give them time
Yeah.
to read it to themselves again to absorb the information correctly.
Maybe if you get them to read it first and then to focus on
Yeah.
pronunciation, there's some focus on pronunciation that they still forget what they read before, so they might still want to read it again,
But I find that, for example, naturally, if you're a native speaker, you read ahead in a sentence. So for example, you're looking at the commas, you understand the whole phrase. If you're a non-native speaker, you're like transport. Okay, how do I pronounce this word? The next word is drivers. You're not really looking at the meaning of the sentence.
So what I said yesterday about your brain predicting, we predict what's coming.
Yeah, whereas they don't.
Whereas they don't, you can't at that level.
What are the things that allow us to predict what's coming? To predict?
There's one if you know it's a noun or a verb.
Yeah, the question of colligation. That as soon as we see pressurize the government into, okay, we know because it's neoconic that the next word is going to be a gerund. Yeah, so it's the grammar that goes together. Yeah, and the collocations, making concessions. Yeah, so we're anticipating the collocations. Yeah.
I also find that when, especially with reading exercises, people tend to, as you said, sound like a sat nav, but they're not, apart from just the pronunciations or the stresses, they run through it without, with absolute disregard for punctuation.
Yeah.
And I try to stress that to my students that when you're reading, the punctuation, the stops, the everything, the rules are the same as in Spanish or in Catalan, and you have to respect that. And it's not a race. Take your time.
Right.
Don't blast through it.
Just a quick question: would you go to the extreme of like teaching line? Okay. Would you go to the extreme of teaching export?
Very often, yeah. It comes up. In fact, every time
I export.
But no, like record.
Okay.
Yeah. I would very often do that. I guess so. Yeah. What's the difference between record and record? What's the difference between import, and so on.
One thing to add to what Alex was saying is that I teach your students to breathe.
Yeah.
When they speak, when they read, they don't breathe.
Yeah.
They don't pause, they don't stop with the punctuation and breathe.
Yeah.
I think that's also nervousness.
What the heck goes
finish my part and then it's
Sorry.
Can you read the first sentence?
Free.
Yeah.
And again, think of like the pronunciation. Yeah, where are the big glides in the pronunciation of transport drivers have been on strike for several days. More information coming, and most large supermarkets have run out of fresh produce, like fruit and vegetables, going down, finished. And there's a bit of contrary. A lot of people have sympathy for the strikers, and we're anticipating a but or a because. Either the two things that could come next. But others say the unions are trying to pressurize the government into making concessions that all taxpayers will end up paying for. In addition, now start to, that like the major shifts in pitch, are connected to the theme. May also be connected to the way I feel about it. So, in addition, that's not enough. Also, in terms of just going back to the lexis that's here and the language that's here, it's connected to the work, the world of work. On strike, run out of make concessions, taxpayers end up paying for, lay off, take advantage of, like heaps of useful language in there. Preparation time.
Minimal.
My preparation time as a teacher for this lesson was basically nothing. It was going, hey guys, this transport strike is going on. Yeah. Boom. That's it. Right, and going from sort of zero material, we're now going to looking at your materials. We've got an hour to present our material for each other.
You know what you said? You know what you said before about the done on the spur of the moment.
Yeah. Don't quote.
No, you said that those things are always best. So.
But you said.
You said.
Sure. Yeah. If you want to have a 1 minute break, then that's fine. There are. I say one. I usually say three.